Part 105. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1041. Chapter 1041 Differential Treatment. Pei Jingyu and Pei Jingshan were unlucky. Their father was assigned to visit a small, remote country where conditions were difficult and there was danger of war. The two went home and gave their daughters a hard lesson. They were grounded, ordered to read books, and warned not to provoke Xiaoling. Pei Jingyu and Pei Jingshan accepted the punishment humiliatingly, but they hated Xiaoling to their core. Xiaoling knew nothing about all this and prepared for her trainee selection exam seriously. The exam is divided into several parts, including appearance, deportment, and temperament, and answering questions. There is also the option of taking the exam in singing, dancing and acting. Xiaoling chose singing. She likes singing and hopes to become a singer in the future. At the end of the day, the driver drove her to the scene in a Rolls-Royce. A block away, she asked the driver to stop the car. "Let's get off the car here, Uncle Lee, don't let anyone find out that I was adopted by Brother Pei." The little girl wanted to be fair and wanted to rely on her own strength. It's impressive, and Pei Xian's Rolls-Royce is really eye-catching. The driver had already received Pei Xian's instructions and obeyed her in everything, parking the car on the side of the road. Xiaoling accompanied him to the examination room. The examination room was crowded with well-dressed candidates and nervous parents. Xiaoling, on the other hand, only wore a homely dress, made of very light, soft and comfortable material, and was Pei Xian's favorite blue-gray color. She hoped that his favorite color would bring her good luck. But such a skirt would be too plain in a crowd full of colorful flowers. "Miss, do you want to change your clothes?" the driver asked. In the trunk of the car, there were many clothes and accessories that Pei Xian had ordered to prepare in advance. He seemed to let her take the exam alone, but in fact he was very concerned about it. Xiaoling looked at the crowd like a peacock spreading its wings, hesitated for a moment, and then shook her head. "This looks good on me." She looked up and smiled sweetly at the driver. "I must wear Brother Pei's favorite color to enter the training camp." Unknowingly, his weight in her heart became so heavy. The driver stopped trying to persuade her and just let her go. Because he knew that even if she failed to pass the exam, Pei Xian would ask someone to change the scores until she passed. Although in her view, this exam was a battle, she didn't understand that the outcome had already been decided. Pei Xian was just indulging her and playing a harmless game with her. The little girl was very interested, and she grabbed the driver and quickly found Hokao district. At the gate of Hokao district, a security guard blocked the way. "I'm sorry, please send parents who are taking exams to stop." So, Xiaoling waved to the driver, laughed loudly and said, "Goodbye Uncle Li, wait for my good news." The driver also smiled and waved to her. In order to conceal his identity, he did not wear the black suit and white gloves that he usually wore when driving for Pei Xian today. Instead, he wore a casual shirt and looked like a kind and honest uncle next door. Xiaoling's laughter was so clear that many candidates in the examination area turned to look at them. "It's so noisy," a candidate who was reviewing the music score said impatiently. The examinee next to her glanced at Xiaoling and the driver outside the door with disdain, and chuckled, "Really, all the poor guys come to take the exam these days, and they are not shabby even if they are dressed like this." Another candidate was sharp-eyed and noticed that although the style and color of Xiaoling's dress was low-key, the workmanship and materials were all first class, and it looked like it was from a wealthy family. But it was none of her business, so she was too lazy to tell the truth and let the other candidates ridicule Xiaoling. It would be best if these two groups quarreled and all were eliminated. The candidates in the room all have their own thoughts. Xiaoling was a little unhappy after hearing a few people's comments, but she came here to take an exam today and didn't want to argue with anyone, so she just glared at the person who criticized her and planned to go find a seat and wait for her seat to be called. Unexpectedly, the person she glared at turned out to be an eldest lady, Why are you staring at me? Xiaoling frowned, you provoked me first. Oh, why did I offend you? The girl stood up as soon as she brushed the floor. She looked about 14 or 15 years old, a head taller than Xiaoling, and looked at her condescendingly, believe it or not, I will beat you up. Kid. If it were an ordinary girl, she would be frightened, but who is Xiaoling? She has been fighting in the orphanage for food since she was a child. She stared at the girl without showing any signs of weakness. We still don't know who will beat whom, come on. She looked at the big girl with bared teeth and claws. Although she didn't want to cause trouble, she didn't recognize it when others provoked her. Coward. The big girl stretched out her hand to push her, but Xiaoling was very nimble and avoided it in a flash. The older girl suddenly pushed a girl behind Xiaoling who was watching the fun. The girl fell backwards with an ouch and knocked down several other girls. My clothes. My skirt. Hyosukeo district was in chaos. What are you arguing about? The teacher who was maintaining order rushed in and glanced at all the candidates. Quiet down. Today is the final, and only 30 students out of 100 people will be admitted. If anyone wants to be eliminated early, just noisy, immediately disqualified. With one sentence, the entire Hokkaido district fell into silence. Only Xiaoling opened her eyes in surprise. What, today is the final? Today is her first time to take the selection exam. Could she have gone to the wrong exam room? She felt anxious and was about to ask a question when she heard an unhurried girl's voice. Why is Teacher Chen so angry? Isn't it because I'm late? Teacher Chen's expression changed, and he ignored the candidates here. He turned around and greeted the girl with a smile on his face. Miss Li Bingman? You are finally here. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Come on, come on. I've specially left the best for you, and also prepared black tea. Teacher Chen is so polite, so thank you for your trouble. The girl's voice was still unhurried, and she slowly walked into the Hokkaido district. Only then did everyone see her true face. She is a very beautiful girl, although she is more beautiful than others. Xiaoling is still not far behind, but there is no third person in the entire Hokkaido district who can compare with her. Her expression was dignified and arrogant, and she looked like a condescending princess. Teacher Chen diligently led her to the window seat at the front of the Hokkaido area. There was the only table in the entire area, and a cup of steaming tea was placed on the table. Earlier, a cordon was put up there to prevent other candidates from entering. The candidates thought it was the examiner's seat. Li Bingman walked over gracefully, holding up her skirt elegantly, and took a seat. She is not very old, she looks about 12 or 13 years old, but she is more charming than many ladies. So she is Li Bingman. Next to Xiaoling, a candidate came to his senses and admired enviously. I heard that she is the sister of the great Queen Li Binjiu. No wonder she is treated differently. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1042. Chapter 1042, Exemption Quota. Another candidate said, she has a good family background and is beautiful. I also heard that her singing is as good as Li Binjiu. With her ability, she will have no problem passing this selection exam. It's not just a problem, another candidate said, I think she is the best candidate for this academic year. What is a school year, chief? Xiaoling asked curiously. The candidates who were talking looked at each other and thought, where did this little girl come from? You're a trainee here, why don't you have any common sense? You don't understand even if I tell you they didn't want to talk to Xiaoling. This little girl was so breathtakingly beautiful that they felt deeply threatened, and her simple dress also made them look down on her and disdained her company. Why don't I understand? Xiaoling was anxious and glared at them. Don't underestimate people. Her voice became louder, and Teacher Chen's displeased eyes swept over here. The children became quiet immediately. Okay, Let me tell you. After Teacher Chen looked away, a girl glared at Xiaoling and reluctantly lowered her voice and said, "But you have to promise us not to mess around again. Make a noise, otherwise everyone will be disqualified from the exam. I want you to look good." That's right, several other candidates echoed. Xiaoling then remembered the seriousness of the matter and said quickly, "I'm sorry, I won't speak loudly." Only then were the candidates satisfied, and they explained to her nonchalantly, "In the Emperor training camp, there is a school year chief in each session, who is the face of the entire age group. The school year chief in each session is the best in the final exam. As for the first year students who have just entered, the chief of the school year is the first place in the trainee selection competition. Do you think Li Bingman will win first place?" Xiaoling understood this time. "Nonsense, who else but her? She is Li Binjiao's sister," someone sighed in frustration. "It's so unlucky. Why am I in the same class as her? Otherwise, we can still compete for the top spot this school year. Others have feelings for each other. I heard that the chiefs of the Emperor training camp in previous academic years are the key training targets. They will receive various resources from the first grade onwards. Several kings and queens who came out of the training camp were all chiefs in those years. The competition in the entertainment industry is cruel. From the moment these children have not even entered the training camp, they have already begun to compete with each other." Xiaoling only thought that being the chief was an honor. She had no idea that the inside story was so complicated. Of course, no one would remind her. Who would be so kind as to tell competitors information? Everyone rests and waits for the number to be called. "Now let's check the candidates' numbers." Teacher Chen took a pen and paper and began to count the candidates' information. "Noah 3695, Wangkazi, bring up your ID card." "Yes," a girl immediately came up and held up her ID card respectfully. Teacher Chen compared her ID card photo with her admission ticket photo and herself. After confirming that she was not taking the exam on behalf of others, she let her go and called the next one, No D9607, Chiu Yunli. The candidates stepped forward to check in an orderly manner. Teacher Chen continued to call, No S0001, Li Bingman. No S0001, there was a commotion in Hokkaido district. Many people looked at Li Bingman, who got up from his seat with surprised and envious eyes. She is those who are exempt from the first few exams will go directly to the finals. Are you exempted from the first few exams? The curiosity in Xiaoling's heart started to show up again. When someone interrupted her, she almost forgot that she seemed to have gone to the wrong examination room. She said she came to the finals out of nowhere. Could it be that she, like Li Bingman, was exempted from the exam? The candidate next to her looked at her like a country bumpkin, and told her in a show-off manner, "You don't know, right? There are exemption quotas for the selection competition of the Emperor training camp. As long as you are good enough, you don't have to go through the preliminary and semi-finals. Go straight to the finals." "Is that so?" Xiaoling blinked and digested it. Was she good enough in the eyes of Brother Pei? But, she had already told Brother Pei that she had to rely on her strength to take the exam, but Brother Pei actually got her a place to be exempted from the exam. Woo. She was a little melancholy. The examinee next to her saw that she was unhappy and thought she was ashamed, so she couldn't help but said, "Look at it, it's very difficult to get this quota. There was no one in the last class, and we will definitely only have Li Bingman in this class. Like we, ordinary candidates, shouldn't compete with the Queen's sister." As he spoke, Li Bingman passed by them in a dignified manner, bringing with him a faint scent of fragrance. The candidate who was talking to Xiaoling hurriedly took 2 steps back to make way for Li Bingman, and even pulled Xiaoling, fearing that she would bump into Li Bingman and cause him no good results. Li Bingman was very satisfied with the candidate's humility, and a smile appeared on her lips. However, Xiaoling was unaware and kept saying, "But, I haven't passed the preliminary and semi-finals assessment either. She really didn't mean to show off, she just hadn't figured out whether she was exempted from the test or went in the wrong direction. If she went to the wrong examination room, she would have to find her own examination room quickly. Heh, Li Bingman heard this. She couldn't help but stop and look at Xiaoling. That's interesting. Who are you? The condescending gaze made people uncomfortable. Xiaoling didn't like her very much when she found out that she was Li Binjiao's sister. Now when she heard her twitchy tone like her sister, she became even more disgusted and replied, I won't tell you. The people next to her were so frightened that they quickly took a few steps back to draw a clear line between them and Xiaoling. This girl wanted to die to offend Li Bingman, so it was best not to be implicated. Why are you talking to Miss Li Bingman? A trainee was eager to curry favor with Li Bingman and quickly scolded Xiaoling. At this scolding, all the candidates in the entire Hokkaido district looked over. Xiaoling was even more unhappy. That's what I said. What's wrong? Li Bingman looked at her. You said you also came in without taking the exam. Didn't my sister say that she was the only one exempted from the exam this time? It took a lot of effort to get this spot. Impossible, this brazen little girl must be a liar. What qualifications does she have to be exempted from the exam? Xiaoling felt a little guilty. She suspected that she had gone to the wrong examination room, but no matter what, she was very stubborn. I just didn't pass the first 2 exams. Li Bingman frowned slightly, but maintained a good manner. What is your admission ticket number? Why should I tell you? Xiaoling was wary. Someone next to me interjected, Ha, are you feeling guilty? The first letter on the admission ticket represents your examination area. Only those whose initials are S are exempt from the preliminary and re-examinations. You will know if you are exempted from the examination by looking at the admission ticket. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1043. Chapter 1043 Prelude to the Finals. Before Xiaoling could speak, Teacher Chen over there had already found her on the list of candidates. Although Teacher Chen didn't know Xiaoling, the girl was so beautiful that it was difficult to recognize her when comparing the photo on the registration form with the real person. Her name is Xiaoling. Teacher Chen came over with the list of candidates and said to Li Bingman diligently, the admission ticket number is H1119. H1119. Many people laughed, haha, what kind of powerful person do I think it is? How dare you lie to people about being exempted from the exam if it starts with H? Xiaoling, right? Can you please make a draft before bragging? Ha ha ha, I laughed to death. Xiaoling ignored the crowd of spectators and just asked Teacher Chen, I am taking the exam here, right? She was still thinking about going to the wrong examination room. Teacher Chen smiled but said, there is only one final exam left for the Emperor Training Camp selection exam. How could you go wrong with your admission ticket? Stop pretending. You haven't even debuted yet. You are talking nonsense without telling the truth. I will debut in the future, is that okay? So what if you are beautiful? If you really want to enter the training camp, lying is a taboo. She is so beautiful. Teacher Chen has been in the Emperor's training camp for so many years, but he has never seen a girl more beautiful than Xiaoling. Just by looking at her appearance, Teacher Chen knew that it was a sure bet that she would enter the Emperor's training camp even if she couldn't sing, dance, and practice. She could still be an advertising model and make vases. So, Teacher Chen did not completely ridicule Xiaoling, but mainly taught her a lesson. Xiaoling felt aggrieved, I didn't lie. Why didn't you lie? Li Bingman sneered, you are so vain, and you pretend that you are also exempted from the exam. Tell me, what qualifications do you have to be exempted? That's right, other candidates said. Li Bingman sings well and has a good family background and good manners. How about you? I. Xiaoling wanted to say that her manners were not bad. No matter what, she had learned from Ms. Sophia for a long time. Even Ms. Sophia, who had taught princesses from various countries, praised her for being very charming. But looking at the hostile faces, the stubbornness in her heart was aroused, and she suddenly didn't want to explain so much. I'm just better than you, what's wrong? She glared at Li Bingman angrily, joking. She had even made Li Bingman's sister cry, so she was still afraid of just Li Bingman? If I hadn't come to take the exam myself, I would have gone directly to the training camp without having to participate in the finals. After all, she was still a little girl, and she couldn't stop showing off after being squeezed into this position. She couldn't help but reveal Pei Xian's original arrangement, and finally managed to maintain a trace of reason in her excitement and did not reveal his name directly. Ha ha ha, this time, even Teacher Chen couldn't help laughing. The other candidates also looked at her as if she was crazy. Are you okay? Don't ask around. The exemption from the exam in the Emperor training camp can only be exempted from the preliminary and rematch. Since the establishment of the training camp, no one has been directly selected without participating in the finals. Go in. Who do you think you are? I can do it, she whispered. Teacher Chen frowned. This child has a pretty face, but why is his EQ and IQ so poor? You have to remember to draft even if you lie, skip the finals and enter the training camp. She didn't even bother to inquire about the reality. Your number starts with H. Teacher Chen decided to teach her a lesson to kill her arrogance. H is the number from the Shui area. The quality of candidates in that area has always been very poor. No one has passed the semi-finals for 3 consecutive years. Since you were lucky enough to pass, take part in the competition and stop fantasizing about your privileges. As he said that, he glanced at Li Bingman admiringly. No one else is truly privileged but you play the lute. Xiaoling was unhappy. I'm not lucky. Moreover, why did her number come from the Shui area? Weivua brother Pei didn't say hello to her beforehand. Where was that place? In the little girl's poor knowledge, she had no idea about Shui. Teacher Chen sneered. In that place in Shui, can the candidates sing or dance? She didn't even expect Xiaoling to act. Looking at Xiaoling's clumsy lie just now, it was strange that she had acting talent. Xiaoling said seriously, I can sing and dance. Ha ha ha, a group of people laughed. Hearing that Xiaoling is from the Shui area, all the candidates were relieved. That place is notoriously poor, and the people who came out were not knowledgeable and certainly not strong. Originally, Xiaoling's astonishing beauty made many female candidates wary, but now that they guessed that she was not strong, the threat was naturally lifted. They continued to laugh at her. Are you good at dancing, or can you sing Yanko? You've gone too far. Xiaoling was extremely angry. Why are all of these people so annoying? You are the masters of dancing and singing Yanko. I sing better than you all. From the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of Li Bingman smiling elegantly and reservedly, and couldn't help but direct his fire at her. I sing better than you, too. Heh, Li Bingman didn't expect the stinky girl to dare to challenge her, so she sneered, a frog in a well. He looked disdainful of being acquainted with her. Xiaoling was so angry that she was about to explode. Regarding the attitude of Li Bingman and these people, she had to behave well to them. You guys wait. I will get the first place. I will get that first grade title. Yes, first grade title. The group of people laughed again. The little girl was unconvinced and waited patiently for the finals to begin. The rules of the final are very special. 6 examiners sit behind a long table in a large classroom, while 100 candidates sit around in a semicircle. No one assigns the order of the candidates to take the stage. It is up to each person to decide whether he is the first to take the stage or the last one to take the stage. Of course, There will also be situations where the candidates look at each other and are unwilling to go on stage. When this happens, the examiners handle it in a very simple and crude way. They will randomly designate a candidate and remove him directly. The meaning of delisting is to be eliminated. Many people say that this designation is unfair, but the training camp has a reasonable argument. Luck is also a part of strength. Who says some candidates are unlucky? If you are not lucky, why should you be in the entertainment industry? The entertainment industry is definitely an industry that requires luck, and there may not be one like it. This year's finals started in silence. Many people turned their attention to Xiaoling, wanting to see if this brazen little girl would be the first to play. But Xiaoling just sat motionless, her expression not even changing. Several examiners looked at each other, and Teacher Chen cleared her throat and said, "If no one comes on stage again, we will randomly designate candidates for elimination." Many people looked at Xiaoling with schadenfreude. She had been contradicting Teacher Chen for a while just now. She must be the first to be eliminated. There are 3 updates tonight, and there are 2 more updates, which may not be on time. 555 Kana Scenic Area is a scenic spot where you can't find tables and chairs, and I burst into tears. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1044. Chapter 1044 Examiner Feng Kun. Having one less competitor is always a good thing. Many people are looking forward to Xiaoling being eliminated, but they are not moving. Even if a few male candidates felt sorry for this beautiful little girl who was in such trouble, they did not dare to bet their own futures. In almost all competitions, the first one to play always suffers. This is common sense. Teacher Chen and several other examiners looked at each other. Jokik, out. She flipped through the list of candidates and called out their names. What? The girl named Jokik blurted out with disbelief on her face. Xiaoling should be the one who is eliminated. This is not fair. Luck is also a part of strength. There is nothing unfair about strength. Teacher Chen's facial expression expressed the wise words of the Emperor training camp. Jokik shook her head, unable to accept this result. Why not Xiaoling? She obviously contradicted you. She still has trouble with Miss Li Bingman. Just a few minutes ago, she was still laughing at Xiaoling in her heart. The ignorant country bumpkin will definitely be kicked down. I didn't expect that I would be the first one to be kicked down. Teacher Chen waved his hand impatiently, and 2 security guards immediately came forward and invited Jokik out politely but forcefully. The whole classroom was extremely quiet and silent. Only then did they have a sense of reality that they were in the Emperor's examination room. The competition was too cruel and everyone was in danger. Jokik's noise gradually faded away. The door to the classroom was closed by security. Teacher Chen looked around and said flatly, "Do you think I will let Xiaoling be eliminated? I'm sorry, I can tell you clearly that in this final, only ER will not be randomly selected. There are only 2 people eliminated, one is Li Bingman and the other is Xiaoling." There was a swish sound, and there was a slight commotion in the classroom. Why? Some candidates were dissatisfied and couldn't help but ask, "Li Bingman is the Queen's sister. We all understand that she is protected, but why is Xiaoling also protected?" "Yes, why?" the candidates asked one after another. "Because you are not as beautiful as her." The person who spoke was another male examiner. He was very young, with a gentle and elegant appearance, which made people feel comfortable. However, what he said was cold and cruel. Have you ever heard of a saying? Face is justice. For a beautiful girl like Xiaoling, her face is her passport. The candidates fell silent again and looked at Xiaoling with various complicated looks. No matter how jealous they were, they had to admit how beautiful this girl was. Her almost shocking beauty was unparalleled. If she is incompetent, she can rely on her face to make a living. Can you? The male examiner stated the facts. I'm not incompetent. Although the male examiner was speaking for her, Xiaoling was still a little unhappy. Why, she sang well. Oh my god, is this girl crazy? There was another commotion among the candidates. She not only contradicted Teacher Chen, she also contradicted Feng Kun. Sitting in the examiner's seat in the center is Feng Kun, who is already known as the emperor's best music producer at a young age. All the music created by his hands is not unpopular. Feng Kun. How many idols are there for children who dream of becoming stars? Now, he was bumped by this girl from a small place in the countryside. Sure enough, a wild girl is a wild girl, and an ignorant girl is an ignorant girl. A group of candidates were complaining madly in their hearts. Unexpectedly, Feng Kun just looked at Xiaoling, smiled gently, and did not continue to speak. Teacher Chen, on the other hand, glared at Xiaoling rudely. Don't be lawless just because you are beautiful. Beauty is just a stepping stone in the entertainment industry. If you are arrogant, you will end up in a miserable place. As he said that, he glanced at the candidates with a cold face, who should go on stage to perform. Candidates, you look at me and I look at you. This time, they don't expect the examiners to randomly remove Xiaoling. In order to avoid being the next unlucky person to be randomly eliminated, a male candidate soon stood up and said, "I'll do it." Although the first exam has many disadvantages, it also has advantages, such as impressing the examiner. This male candidate still had a lot of confidence in his talents, so he was brave. He performed a short improvisational performance, and his skills were indeed impressive. Several examiners each scored him on the scorebook, removing the highest score and the lowest score. The remaining 4 scores were combined and averaged. The candidate's final score was 7.6. Out of 10 points, it's good to get 7.6 points, some candidates were whispering among themselves. Last year's admission cutoff was 7.6 points. If it is the same this year, he will be admitted. That candidate was quite satisfied with his results, but also very uneasy. Who knows how this year's admissions cutoff will be compared to last year's? He bowed politely to the examiners, returned to his seat, watched the performances of other candidates, and waited for the final results. With his start, one after another, other candidates also came on stage. The scores may be high or low, some may be happy and some may be sad. This year's exam is so strict. Look at that Zhao Tian who danced so well just now, and yet he only got a score of 8.1. How can he still live? One examinee said to the people around him. Who says it's not the case? More than 60 people have passed it, and the highest score is only 8.4. Last year's highest score was 9.2, said another candidate. 9.2, we have no hope. Let's see if Li Bingman can break the record this year. Look, she is sitting so firmly, as if she is confident. In a corner of the classroom, Li Bingman was drinking tea leisurely and watching the selection on the stage very ladylike. Her temperament of remaining calm despite the collapse of the mountain has impressed many people, and they all thought that she is indeed the sister of the Queen of Heaven. She has a good family background and really has the demeanor of a celebrity. Xiaoling, on the other hand, can't sit still very well. She moves around here and there, very impatiently. Although she has also learned etiquette, Ms. Sophia's etiquette class has never taught her how to become a well-behaved lady. Instead, it has developed a unique set of etiquette rules based on her lively temperament, allowing her to sit around and act erratically. It also looks very beautiful when moving. This is where Ms. Sophia is better than other etiquette teachers. Beauty is never about conformity, but allows everyone to shine with their own unique light. But many people in the examination room, even though they thought the girl looked very good looking lying on the back of the chair, still felt that she had no rules and was really offensive. Look at her, someone pointed at Xiaoling, she doesn't have a sitting posture, and she still wants to compete with Li Bingman. It's really funny. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xiaowaning. Chapter 1045. Chapter 1045. Sing whatever you want. Xiaoling had very good ears and turned to glare at the man. She refused to go on stage and patiently lay on the back of her chair to wait. It was so boring to watch the candidates performing one by one. It made her wonder if there was something wrong with her aesthetics. Why didn't she feel anything about the shows that the people next to her said were great? I am bored. Drowsily, she fell asleep. At the review table, Feng Kun was watching the exam while secretly observing the little girl. From the first time he saw her, he was keenly aware that there was a kind of light in her. It was a very unique and indescribable feeling. If you really want to say it, people who shine with this special light are without exception. They all became popular superstars. He was looking forward to her performance. However, most of the candidates had already performed, but she was still lying on the back of the chair, her calves dangling, looking very bored. This is the Emperor's Training Camp Selection Competition. The highest level trainee selection in the country. The other candidates were also nervous, so why did something not feel right when it came to her? I don't know, I thought she was bored waiting for the train. Xiaoling had a good night's sleep. She dreamed that she successfully entered the training camp, debuted and became a big star. On the podium for the best female singer, Pei Xian presented her with an award. Xiaoling. Xiaoling, suddenly, someone called her. She suddenly woke up, rubbed her eyes, and found that the entire classroom of candidates and examiners were looking at her speechlessly. What's wrong? She asked drowsily, her crystal eyes looking very innocent. Everyone was speechless again. This girl slept well. Feng Kun suppressed his laughter and said to her gently, now that all the candidates have finished the exam, only you and Li Bingman are left. Which one of you two will come first? Ah, so fast, Xiaoling whispered, a little melancholy. She was dreaming about Brother Pei handing her a gorgeous and shiny trophy. She reached out her hand to receive it, but before she could receive it, she was woken up. Everyone's forehead is about to burst with veins. This is called fast, they think it's too slow, okay. The examiners all want to finish the task as soon as possible, and the candidates are also looking forward to announcing the results as soon as possible. She is the only one who thinks it's too slow, right? Feng Kun wanted to laugh again, but he still said to her very gently, you go first or Li Bingman first, have you decided? She goes first, the two girls said in unison. As soon as they finished speaking, they glanced at each other, and they could see hostility in each other's eyes. Li Bingman wanted to be the finale, so she said to Xiaoling with some reserve, I'll let you go first. Xiaoling said, who wants you to give in? You sing first. Sing whatever you want, and I will sing the same song as you. I will definitely sing better than you. This is the reason why she wants Li Bingman to sing first. These people, don't everyone look down on her? Then let them see what she is capable of. She has never lost to anyone in singing competition. As soon as these words came out, everyone gasped, so arrogant. I have seen confident people, but I have never seen anyone so confident. This was in front of all the examiners at the Emperor's Training Camp Selection Competition. Is she crazy? Everyone whispered to each other again. It's already very difficult to win over any candidate, but she actually wants to win over Li Bingman? This country girl doesn't know who Li Bingman is, right? I think he was driven crazy by the stimulation. The candidates all agreed. Li Bingman's face was very exciting. Someone actually asked her to sing casually and promised to beat her with the same song. This is like when a nobody and a martial arts master are fighting. The nobody says, I'll give you 3 moves. This is naked humiliation for the martial arts master. Li Bingman was going crazy. She laughed angrily, you really don't know how high the sky is. Xiaoling proudly raised her chin, who is it? Just tell me whether you dare or not. What am I afraid of? Li Bingman sneered, but I don't think you have the qualifications to challenge me. Xiaoling, you sing first. I don't. The two people refused to give way to each other and glared at each other. The examiners were surprised. This was the first time they had encountered this situation in so many years of training camp selections. It was really weird. They looked at each other, exchanging ideas with their eyes. After a moment, Feng Kun was the first to speak. You all want to sing last? How about this? Whoever sings first among you can choose the song freely, and the person who sings last must sing the same song. Xiaoling, do you have any questions? I have no problem, Xiaoling Qing replied calmly. This was her idea in the first place. Li Bingman, do you have any questions? Feng Kun asked again. Li Bingman hesitated. This proposal was to put her on the fire. She doesn't have such confidence. Even if her sister Li Binjiao comes to the scene, she probably won't have such confidence. There are thousands of songs in this world, who knows what kind of songs the other party will choose? What if she doesn't know how to do it? Examiner, Xiaoling is making trouble unreasonably, Li Bingman said. Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Feng Kun. Very good, you sing first. Me, Li Bingman was anxious. Why was Feng Kun deciding the order in just a few words? Let's get started. Feng Kun stopped listening to her explanation and leaned back to indicate that the conversation was over. He is Emperor's latest rising star and a music producer with great momentum. Even Li Binjiao dare not offend him. After listening to what he said, the other examiners naturally had no doubts and signaled that Li Bingman could start. Li Bingman was very aggrieved. Before taking the exam, her sister told her that she must sing the finale. Only when she speaks out can she be famous. She had finally endured it until now, and now it was about to be the finale. Who knew that a wild girl would steal the spotlight? However, she did not dare to disobey Feng Kun, so she had to slowly go on stage. I will sing one. She thought for a while and said, I will sing a Russian song called Meteor Fireworks. Russian songs, as soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. It has always been an unfortunate practice to choose songs in foreign languages other than English in exams. Firstly, the examiner does not know how good your Chinese singing skills are. Secondly, the examiner may not understand what you are singing. Thirdly, singers who are good at foreign songs are not conducive to the development of the domestic market. Fourthly, you may not be able to speak correctly. Through various factors together, basically, those who chose foreign language songs in the exam were killed. Li Bingman dares to choose Russian songs now, which shows that she is very confident in herself. Several examiners looked at each other again. Teacher Chen cleared his throat and said to Li Bingman, you have to think clearly. Russian songs are very difficult. If you can sing them well, you will be amazing. If you fail to sing them, there will be no second choice a chance. My second foreign language is Russian, Li Bingman said confidently. Don't worry, Teacher Zhou, I can sing Russian songs no problem. In fact, she originally prepared a Chinese song today, but she was interrupted by Xia just now. As soon as Aya was stimulated, she changed her mind temporarily. She wanted to show that wild girl her skills. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1046. Chapter 1046, What to Win. Many candidates thought of this and looked at Xiaoling with gloating. Xiaoling frowned slightly. She had never thought that Li Bingman could sing foreign songs. In her mind, singing wasn't all Chinese songs. However, the bold words had been released, and she had to hold on even if she had to hold on. Facing all kinds of looks, she raised her head calmly and proudly. Hee, Li Bingman sneered in her heart, "Wild girl, how long can you keep pretending?" She gently held up the hem of her skirt and stood gracefully on the stage. Behind her, a five-piece band took their place with instruments. Wow, the Queen's sister is the Queen's sister, and she even brought her own band for the exam. It's so cool. Some candidates in the audience said with envy that they all used pre-recorded accompaniment tapes. Li Bingman heard it and smiled slightly at the corner of her lips. For this competition, she specially invited a professional band, and it took a long time to practice 2 or 3 pieces of music. Generally speaking, candidates for the finals will prepare 2 or 3 songs in case something unexpected happens. For example, they clash with others, someone sings better in the same genre, etc., they need to change to backup songs. This Russian song is Li Bingman's backup. Because, although it is a foreign song, it has a wide range of sounds and complex changes in levels. It is a song that can very well reflect the singer's skills, and it is also very consistent with Li Bingman's personal temperament. In the audience, several candidates also noticed the clue. As for the band accompaniment, Li Bingman must have been practicing for a long time. Now Xiaoling is going to be in trouble. Haha, it's good to teach that country girl a lesson. Li Bingman, come on, someone shouted to Li Bingman. Come on, more people shouted. A smile appeared on Li Bingman's lips. Sure enough, she was the one who attracted everyone's attention and attracted the attention of the people. She walked onto the stage gracefully, bowed gently to the examiners, and sang to beautiful accompaniment. That is indeed a very nice and difficult Russian song. Under Li Bingman's interpretation, sometimes it is like a flying eagle soaring into the sky, sometimes like a sinking fish diving underwater, like meteors intersecting, and like flames flying. The various skills are skillfully switched, taking people into a mysterious and vast foreign world. It's so nice. When the song ended, everyone applauded. Li Bingman is worthy of being the Queen's sister. Her singing voice is clear and melodious, showing her extremely wide range of talent and singing skills. Her high notes are loud and deep, her bass is deep, and her expressiveness is admirable. Several examiners looked at each other and felt that this was a good prospect who was expected to become a future diva. 9.3 points, in the end, the score was fixed at 9.3. The whole examination room was in a commotion. Last year's highest score was only 9.2. Li Bingman surpassed last year this time. Let me tell you, Li Bingman is very powerful. Ha, there are some people who don't know their own abilities and want to challenge. After praising Li Bingman's score, the candidates all plan to watch Xiaoling's show. This is the highest score compared to the previous session. How can a score that is so high be so easy to surpass? Haha, wild girl, just wait to make a fool of yourself. Li Bingman also looked at Xiaoling, with a look of pride in her expression, as if she was saying, "Wild girl, are you scared?" Now that things have happened, Xiaoling is no longer nervous. She knew she didn't know Russian, so she listened intently when Li Bingman sang. In terms of music, she has an amazing talent. She can memorize every piece of music that she listens to carefully. This time, even though it was a Russian song, she still managed to memorize it with great effort. 8. Thanks to Li Bingman for singing so well. Every beautiful song has its own rhythm, whether it is a sound or a succession of songs, it will give people a very comfortable feeling. As for Xiaoling, she is very sensitive to this feeling. She didn't understand the specific meaning of these lyrics, but in the title, melody, and Li Bingman's emotional interpretation, she made up a complete picture and artistic conception in her mind, and the scenes flowed like a movie. With these self-composed scenes, combined with her amazing musical talent, she felt like she could give it a go. Xiaoling, if you can't do it, just admit defeat. It was Teacher Chen who spoke. What the camp wants to see is your true level. You can choose a song that you are good at. Of course, you must also apologize to Li Bingman. Xiaoling seemed to have turned a deaf ear and stood up and walked to the stage. Hello. Xiaoling. Teacher Chen and many people shouted, thinking that this little girl was crazy. Why is she still stubborn now? Teacher Chen shouted, Xiaoling, are you deaf? Xiaoling has already walked to the center of the examination table and closed her eyes slightly. With no distracting thoughts, she played the song in her mind over and over again, constantly adjusting it, getting closer to the optimal state every time. At this time, she couldn't care less about talking to Teacher Chen. She couldn't let her surging inspiration be interrupted. For a foreign song that she had only heard once, such an interruption would be fatal. A ray of sunlight filtered through the window frame and fell on her body, like a spotlight on a stage. Many people suddenly discovered that this girl wearing an inconspicuous blue-gray home dress was so quiet and beautiful that it was almost holy. Gradually, the whole place fell silent. Teacher Chen wanted to say something else, but Feng Kun held her back and shook her head. Everyone was waiting for Xiaoling. After a moment, she opened her eyes. Are you ready? Feng Kun asked with a smile. From the moment Li Bingman sang, he had been paying close attention to the little girl and found that she looked focused when listening to the song, as if she was immersed in it wholeheartedly. She can still do this despite facing so much pressure. At least, her psychological quality has far exceeded that of most of the candidates present. This is a kind of on-the-spot quality that is very suitable for the entertainment industry. Ready, Xiaoling said. Feng Kun turned around and glanced at the band that had just accompanied Li Bingman. I have to work hard to accompany you again. The members of the band didn't have any objections, raised their hands, and were ready to start work. But Xiaoling asked, wait, can the accompaniment be adjusted? The band members stopped and turned to look at her. Feng Kun was also slightly startled. What? I want to go up 1 degree overall, she said. As soon as these words came out, everyone gasped. They thought this girl was crazy before, but now they think this girl is not only crazy, but crazy. The original tune of Li Bingman's song was very high, and she felt a little bit reluctant when she sang the highest note. None of the other candidates could sing it perfectly, but what about Xiaoling? He even thought about getting a degree. Don't underestimate this moment. At this pitch, half a degree is a matter of life and death. Even Feng Kun was surprised. Have you thought clearly? Xiaoling nodded. She thought about it. Although she recited the Russian song, she didn't know the meaning of the words, and her pronunciation and emotional interpretation may not be as accurate as Li Bingman's. The only thing that can be spelled out is the pitch. I'm so tired today. 2 updates, and one is a little later. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1047. Chapter 1047. She can sing dolphin sounds. Just now, when Li Bingman sang, Xiaoling could barely hear the high notes. At that time, she thought that if it were her, she would be able to operate freely no matter how high it was. However, someone laughed at her in a low voice, you don't know your own abilities. The band leader glanced at Xiaoling and the other examiners and said, if you go one higher level, you'll be admitted to C7. At C7, you'll enter the category of dolphin music. Even in the world, there are only a handful of people who can sing dolphin music. Several examiners looked at each other in surprise and confusion. Dolphin sounds appeared at the trainee selection competition? The probability is so small that it can be ignored. If there were really candidates who could sing dolphin music and were interested in entering the entertainment industry, they would have been discovered by talent scouts long ago, so there would be no need to take any exams. Just saying I can sing dolphin music can make countless companies grab their heads, right? An examiner asks Xiaoling in disbelief, little girl, can you sing C7? This is the first time Xiaoling has heard the saying, what is C7? She is self-taught in singing, and her knowledge of music theory is about the level of elementary school music class, and she has no exposure to C7 at all. The examiners were speechless. Well, they were all wrong. This is a little girl who doesn't know the heights of the world. She will do whatever it takes to defeat Li Bingman. Teacher Chen couldn't help but scolded, "What are you talking about?" Xiaoling stubbornly repeated, "I want to be better." She looked at Feng Kun with a pair of beautiful and clear eyes. Instinctively, this gentle and kind young examiner would speak for her. Sure enough, Feng Kun smiled again. 1 degree higher, he said to the band. How is this okay? Teacher Chen disagreed. Isn't this too ridiculous? The other examiners were also horrified. Feng Kun said to them, let her try. Although he was young, he had a high prestige among a group of people. After hearing what he said, several people were silent. Okay, let this little girl give it a try and let her know the consequences of telling lies. Even if you have a pretty face, you are not invincible. The candidates in the audience also fell silent, all intending to watch Xiaoling's joke. Even Li Bingman sneered. You little girl, I don't know how high the sky is. She thought it was easy to sing the high notes of this song. Some songs seem effortless to listen to, but are really difficult to sing. Li Bingman thought that singing this song had reached the level of ease, and felt that Xiaoling was not ashamed to speak so loudly because she could not see the difficulty. She has already thought about how to humiliate Xiaoling after she makes a fool of herself. Xiaoling adjusted her breathing and signaled that the band could start. The melodious accompaniment sounded, and it was indeed a whole degree higher than before. Xiaoling raised her head slightly, closed her eyes again, and was immersed in a fantasy world, where she was the princess, the queen, and the god of creation, and all the mysterious musical symbols were used for her. She sang the first line of the Russian song in her own unique way. This sentence alone shocked the whole audience. Is somewhat similar to Li Bingman's singing voice, but seems completely different. Xiaoling's singing is more ethereal, as light as the faint traces left by birds flying across the sky. It is so vast and far-reaching that it is both desirable and unattainable. Everyone held their breath, waiting for her second sentence. At this moment, they no longer think about whether her pronunciation is accurate or her enunciation is correct. Music has no borders. There is a kind of beauty that can shock the soul and even transcend the barrier of language. And Xiaoling conveys this kind of beauty. The second sentence comes out with an inadvertent and light turn, like the feathers of a bird falling, or like a ray of sunshine gently brushing on the mimosa. Many people held their breath involuntarily, for fear of disturbing this dream. The third sentence, the fourth sentence. People were surprised to find that Xiaoling's singing voice was not inferior to Li Bingman's at all, and was even more infectious. Li Bingman's singing will make people feel she sings really well, while Xiaoling's singing can directly bring people into the dream world, making people forget that they are listening to a song. Only a few examiners are still awake. Feng Kun's eyes shone slightly. He had been looking forward to this little girl's performance, and her performance was even more amazing than he imagined. He leaned forward, placed his hands on his chin, and listened to her singing with all his concentration. Here we come, here we come. Suddenly, several examiners whispered to each other. They were deeply immersed in Xiaoling's singing and did not forget that the song was raised by a full degree, which meant that the treble part would enter the dolphin sound category above C7. This kind of singing relies heavily on talent. A singer with a dolphin tone can easily twist and turn above C7 and sing a dream-like melody, while ordinary singers will be hoarse and unable to reach this level even after a lifetime of hard training. Kind of height. Can Xiaoling sing dolphin music? If ordinary singers are like the sand on the beach, then singers who can sing dolphin sounds are the gold in the sand. It's enough to show how precious it is. All the examiners sat upright without realizing it. Xiaoling sang the first part of the treble part with a light pirouette, reaching C7 perfectly. Oh my God, all the examiners were so shocked that they couldn't speak. This girl can really do it. She was like a bird soaring high, hovering effortlessly upwards. These were three recurring high-pitched voices, one higher than the other. The highest part was rare even among dolphin sounds, but she was as if nothing had happened. Climbed up with an extremely perfect posture, each of the three turns was more shocking than the last, and at the end, the lingering sound lingered. She didn't stop, immediately descending down the steeply descending scale, perfect alto and bass. Flawless. Everyone was so shocked that they could not speak. They were immersed in the heavenly singing and forgot what night it was. Finally, Xiaoling finished singing, slowly ending with the accompaniment of the band, turned around, and bowed to the examiners. There was no sound from the audience. A second later, Feng Kun took the lead in applauding, and the others also clapped as if they had just woken up from a dream. A smile appeared on Xiaoling's lips and she asked the examiners, "Am I good at singing?" The examiners were silent again. They were also speechless about the little girl's character. Candidates were always trembling with fear. No matter how good they sang, they had to pretend to be modest. How could they be like her? His face looked forward to praise. "Beware of arrogance and impetuosity," Teacher Chen said with a straight face, intending to teach this girl some rules. Xiaoling ignored her and looked at Feng Kun. She has discovered that among so many examiners, Feng Kun is the friendliest to her, and what comes out of his mouth must be correct. Feng Kun smiled and said warmly, "You sang very well and were admitted." "Huh," she exclaimed in small surprise, "the scores haven't been announced yet." "No need to comment, you are number one," Feng Kun said. "If a girl who can sing dolphin music takes first place in the finals, who can be dissatisfied?" End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1048. Chapter 1048, Record Breaking. There are really some people who are dissatisfied. Li Bingman screamed, "Why? Her pronunciation is not accurate at all." Xiaoling looked at her proudly and said, "For Tat, even if I'm not accurate, I'm better than you, huh?" A group of examiners couldn't laugh or cry. This little girl was too aggressive and behaved even though she got an advantage. Teacher Chen cleared his throat and looked at Xiaoling seriously, "Nonsense, you should be humble if your pronunciation is not accurate." Is this the attitude towards classmates? It is a certainty that Xiaoling and Li Bingman will be admitted, and they will be classmates from now on. Xiaoling stopped talking, but the word disapproval was clearly written on her face. Teacher Chen was so angry that this little girl really didn't even know how to write the words "respect the teacher and be honest." Li Bingman looked at Teacher Chen with some grievance. "Even if she can sing dolphin music, does she have to be better than me? This is not fair. Not only is her pronunciation of Russian inaccurate, but she also sang wrong many times. How can she win first place?" Xiaoling whispered, "What's so great about it? She had never learned Russian, and it was amazing that she could sing to this point." Li Bingman was clearly using her language advantage to find faults. Teacher Chen felt that what Li Bingman said made sense. "Teacher Feng, fellow examiners, for the sake of fairness, let's give points. Xiaoling sings well, but her poor pronunciation in Russian will greatly compromise the song, plus her etiquette temperament not as good as Li Bingman. Let the scores decide which one of them will come first." Teacher Chen didn't like Xiaoling and found fault with her everywhere. Feng Kun asked Teacher Chen, "You said her pronunciation is not correct." "Yes," Teacher Chen said confidently. "Which word is incorrect?" "This." Teacher Chen was stuck for a moment. How did she know? She doesn't understand Russian. Feng Kun smiled and looked around. Who else thinks Xiaoling's pronunciation is inaccurate? The other examiners and the candidates on the scene looked at me and I looked at you, but they were speechless. If Teacher Chen is obviously defending Li Bingman, then Feng Kun's favoritism towards Xiaoling is also obvious. The situation became delicate for a moment. Li Bingman bravely spoke, the first word in the first paragraph is not allowed. The third word in the second paragraph, the fifth word, every star in the second paragraph, there are countless other small inaccuracies. Teacher, if you don't believe me, you can compare my version with Xiaoling's version. She knew that it was hard to offend Feng Kun, but it was about her position as the head of the school year, so she had to bite the bullet. Feng Kun did not get angry, but said to her gently, pitch is only a part of a song, and it is not the decisive factor in whether a song is good or not. In fact, I support the practice of giving up part of the pitch for the sake of music appeal. But everyone's genre is different and you can keep your own opinions. As the words came out, many candidates in the audience were thoughtful. There are not many opportunities to get guidance from such an outstanding producer. For many unknown candidates, it may be this time in their lives. But this sentence made many people gain a lot and couldn't help but nod. Li Bingman believed that Feng Kun said this deliberately to protect Xiaoling. She didn't believe that musical appeal could exist without accuracy. Even if it existed, it was not something that a wild girl from the countryside, Xiaoling, could achieve. I want to be graded, she said stubbornly. Please give me a chance to compete fairly, Teacher Feng. Feng Kun glanced at Xiaoling. Xiaoling didn't care, just judge. Although Feng Kun said just now that she was given first place without scoring, she was very happy, but if she wanted to take advantage through the back door, why should she participate in the selection competition? Now that she is here, she is not afraid of any fair competition. She raised her head and looked at Li Bingman mockingly. You will also lose the score. She knew how well she performed the song just now. Except for not being as accurate as Li Bingman in pronunciation, he is worse than Li Bingman in all other aspects. If Li Bingman wins the first place under such circumstances, then there is really something shady. Feng Kun gently turned the fountain pen in his hand half a circle and said, okay, let's rate it. Remove the highest score and remove the lowest score. The final result is 9.6 points. The moment the score was announced, everyone was shocked. This is a record breaking. Not to mention that the Emperor training camp did not have such high scores last year. Even in the entire history, this is the first time that someone has achieved such high scores. Before Xiaoling, the previous highest record was only 9.4. Oh my god, what kind of monster is this? The candidates in the audience were in a commotion. Li Bingman's face is pale. No, how could this be? How could that wild girl's score be so ridiculously high? She doesn't believe it, she doesn't believe it. Li Bingman, what else do you have to say now? You are 0.3 points behind me. 0.3 points. You haven't even broken the record, ha ha ha. However, Xiaoling was afraid that the world would not be in chaos, so she provoked her with power. Li Bingman took a deep breath, and finally restrained herself from losing her composure. She looked at her coldly. Isn't it just because you have a dolphin voice? It only means that you have talent, but it doesn't mean that your singing skills are better than mine. Yes, how about I just have more talent than you? The little girl was still showing off her power, and she was so angry that she was dying. She has disliked Li Bingman for a long time. Why should he be arrogant? He dared to show off in front of her if he had no strength, huh? Li Bingman was so angry that she almost vomited blood. This wild girl is really so unreasonable. Who has any questions this time? It was Feng Kun who spoke. At this time, everyone was silent, even Teacher Chen shut up. When the lowest score was removed, she was the one with the lowest score. She had tried her best, but she still couldn't stop Xiaoling from winning the championship. Li Bingman was also very unconvinced, but she understood that the more she spoke in this situation, the more embarrassing she would be, so she had no choice but to remain silent and pretend not to care, and also pretended to be disdainful of the same knowledge as Xiaoling. Xiaoling hummed happily, not forgetting to touch up. Really, you don't mind the trouble, Teacher Feng said. I don't need to grade me to be the first, It saves more time. You still have to do some grading, the results are not all same. Feng Kun smiled. He found that he quite liked this arrogant little girl. In the entertainment industry, there were fewer and fewer people with such true temperament like her. He was already looking forward to what this little girl would look like when she grew up. Happily getting first place, Xiaoling followed the driver home. During dinner, she vividly told Pei Ziyan what happened today, and concluded, "It is teacher Feng Kun who has the most vision, and teacher Chen is an idiot. Li Bingman is dead." Pei Ziyan cut the veal steak for her little by little. "Do you like Feng Kun?" The words he said are very powerful, the little girl said inarticulately while biting the veal steak he cut obediently. "He likes my songs very much. 3 updates tonight, on time. La la la." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1049. Chapter 1049. This car is borrowed. Pei Ziyan said nothing more, thinking about the candidate list in his mind. In the future, when she debuts, she needs an excellent producer to work hard, and maybe Feng Kun is a good choice. Still, watch. As for Li Bingman and teacher Chen? Very good, he remembered. Xiaoling rested at home for a few days, learned etiquette, and played with flowers and plants. When the admission notice for the training camp was officially sent, she happily urged Zhou's mother to pack her bags and plan to report. Zhou's mother took the luggage list attached to the admission notice and looked at the long list of toothbrushes, towels, slippers, etc. Hesitantly, she went to find Pei Ziyan in private. "Sir, didn't you say that the lady does not need to live on campus?" Pei Ziyan glanced at the list. "Take care of her first. I have already asked someone to greet the school. When the admission procedures are completed and the accommodation is arranged, I will tell her that there is no bed and let her study during these days." He has figured out the little girl's stubborn temper. Since she doesn't like to use her privileges, he won't let her know that it is a privilege. And, he was reluctant to let his children leave home, a reason he was really embarrassed to say out loud. Zhou's mother nodded in agreement and packed Xiaoling's luggage properly. Xiaoling was very happy. She hugged Zhou's mother's neck and kissed her hard. "Zhou's mother is the best." Looking at the little girl's bright smile, Zhou's mother's mood improved. Standing at the gate of the villa, watching her get into the driver's car and gradually go away, a feeling of reluctance and concern suddenly rose in her heart. Maybe the husband was like this too, and he couldn't let go of the lady without knowing it. Arrived at the training camp. The sky is clear and the sun is shining brightly. The entrance to the training camp was filled with all kinds of luxury cars, including BMWs, Audis, Lamborghinis. It was like a world-famous car expo. Most of the people who can support their children in this kind of training camp are rich people. In order to hide her identity, Xiaoling drove a low-key BMW today, which was inconspicuous among the luxury cars. On the other hand, several boys and girls who had met in the finals were a little surprised. "Isn't this Xiaoling just a country girl?" Before, they joked privately that candidates from the Shabay area might have to apply for scholarship subsidies, but they didn't expect that they could also afford a BMW. "Tisk, let's pretend to be fat," someone said. Although Xiaoling performed very well in the finals and became the president of this academic year, many people think that she is just more talented. In terms of overall strength, they are still more optimistic about Li Bingman. After all, that's where Li Bingman's family background lies. The Queen's sister. Are you still worried about resources when you debut in the future? Many trainees have already made up their minds to embrace Li Bingman's thigh, so they will naturally exclude Xiaoling. A well-dressed girl was leaning against a white BMW of the same model as Xiaoling. She glanced at Xiaoling not far away with a frown, turned her head and said to her father, "Dad, that girl is Xiaoling Bei. Why do you have such a good car at home? Why don't you ask me if that car is hers?" Her father also glanced over there and said to his daughter, "It's your first day to report. It's better to do less than to do more. We are all classmates, and you'll get to know it over time." "Humph, who is her classmate?" the girl snorted. "Dad, I have already told you, after entering the training camp, I will hang out with Li Bingman. Her sister is a queen, I treat her like my friend is still worried about not being able to make a debut in the future. I have to find some topics to talk to Li Bingman. That girl is Li Bingman's enemy. If I collect more information about her, Li Bingman will definitely look at me differently." The father was still reluctant, but for the sake of his daughter's future, he really went. The driver was helping Xiaoling carry her luggage. When they arrived at the entrance of the training camp, parents and farewell personnel were not allowed to enter according to regulations. He watched her disappear into the campus dragging her trolley suitcase. "Brother, where are you sending your child?" The father walked over naturally and handed the driver a cigarette. "I don't smoke," the driver politely declined. Xiaoling is not my child," he originally wanted to say miss, but he suddenly changed his mind when he remembered Xiaoling's instructions not to reveal her identity. "Xiaoling? What a good name," the father said with a smile. "I'm here to see my daughter off. My daughter's name is Jia, and she will be classmates in the future. By the way, who are you? Where are her parents? Why don't you send it yourself?" The driver is well trained and will not reveal too much information about his home to strangers, he just smiles. The father was unwilling to give in and kept asking, "This car is really well maintained, brother. Did you buy it yourself? It's the same model as mine. I used it last year and went to a Ford's shop. It cost a lot of money to repair it." Generally speaking, when it comes to their favorite cars, the conversation among men becomes unstoppable. The driver smiled, "How can I afford Xiao Yuan? I borrowed it temporarily and drove it. My own car is too old, so it's not appropriate to send Xiao Ling to school. He usually drives a Rolls-Royce for Pei Zion. His own car is only a Volkswagen Sagitar worth hundreds of thousands, but neither of these cars is suitable for sending Xiaoling to the training camp. The former is too expensive, and the latter is too cheap. Therefore, this BMW was really borrowed temporarily and belonged to Secretary Zhou." There was a hint of disapproval in the father's eyes. After chatting with the driver for a while, he returned to his daughter and said, "You guessed it right, the little girl from Shebei is a poor man. This car was borrowed temporarily to send her to school." His daughter sneered, "Shebei native girl is Shebei native girl." After saying that, he happily pulled up his suitcase and followed the flow of people into the campus. Logistics Director Zhang Qin is an elegant woman in her 30s. She was a little unhappy today. When she walked into her office, she had a cold face and slammed a large pile of candidate information onto her desk. "What's wrong? You're so angry. Who made you unhappy?" Behind her, her friend Bao Ziyulai, the director of the training camp's performing arts department, happened to come to visit and asked with a smile. When Zhang Qin saw it was her, she immediately complained angrily, "The freshmen these days are really getting more and more outrageous. I don't know how I got the chance to find Principal Xia and ask for a day study." "Day study?" Bao Ziyulai was also startled and said, "In the history of our training camp, no student has ever been able to study as a day student. Last year, the daughter of the coal boss wanted to study as a day student, but she was ridiculed by the principal and rejected. Is this a newbie who doesn't know the world and is in trouble this time? Why are you angry? Emperor Training Camp has always been a closed boarding house for easy management. Day reading? That's whimsical." Zhang Qin said, "What a ghost this time. I don't know what kind of ecstasy soup the new student poured into the principal. Principal Xia actually agreed to let her study as a day student. Not only did he agree, he also called me over and told me for a long time that he would hide it from the little girl. The girl herself must say that it was because there was no bed space in the training camp that she was allowed to study on a day trip. No way, Bao Ziyulai also looked like she had seen a ghost. Did the principal take the wrong medicine? Is that girl his relative? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1050. Chapter 1050 Mysterious Origin. God knows where that girl came from. Logistics Director Zhang Qin was still angry. There are no beds in the training camp. Why is there no bed in the training camp? There are more than 10 beds empty. Isn't this a sign of ruining my logistics department? It's time for the year-end evaluation. At that time, I had to deduct points for not having a bed. Well, since Principal Xia told you to say this, I will definitely help you make up for the deducted points elsewhere. However, do you really not know the origin of that girl? Bao Ziyulai was extremely curious. Zhang Qin rolled her eyes at the sky. The origin is a hammer. Principal Xia didn't tell me she has been struggling in the workplace for so many years. She is not stupid, and she doesn't ask questions when she shouldn't. However, she had a guess in her mind. You know, the president of this academic year is not Li Bingman, but a little girl named Xiaoling. I heard that there was a big fuss. Many people were secretly laughing at Li Bingman for losing to an unknown little girl. Is that little girl from Sheibei? Bao Ziyulai was very interested. Women always like gossip. She was very enthusiastic, but she will be miserable in the future. She offended Li Bingman so much as soon as she entered school. She is the one who will be a day student this time, Zhang Qin said. She is the head of the school year and can enjoy the privileges of the head. She has a single dormitory and does not have to crowd together like other students. However, this also means that Li Bingman has to live with her. Others are crowded into the dormitory. I heard that Li Bingman and her sister have similar temperaments and are very arrogant. She probably couldn't bear it, so she designed to get Xiaoling away. That makes sense. Bao Ziyulai said thoughtfully, but even if Li Bingman uses her sister's relationship, can the training camp really break the precedent of day study? I still think it's incredible. Who knows, there is no more reasonable explanation, Zhang Qin said. The little girl must not have known that she was going to be sent to day school. I just bumped into her in the corridor, dragging her luggage in high spirits. It couldn't be her family members are well connected. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known about it, and Principal Xia wouldn't have asked me to lie to her. I didn't expect Li Bingman to be so vicious. This is a huge blow to the bottom of the pot. Tisk tisk. If you want to be in the entertainment industry in the future, it's good to be more thoughtful. Zhang Qin was open-minded, but she was very unhappy with the next sentence. It's really annoying to let the logistics department take the blame. The two were talking lively, and the door of the logistics office was suddenly pushed open. Another female teacher came in and looked at them with a smile. Oh, we are so busy outside. You are hiding here and whispering. What are you talking about? Come on. Eat grapes. The person here is Wang Shui, an assistant in the principal's office, who has a good relationship with Zhang Qin and the others. Zhang Qin and Bao Ziyulai also laughed. Aren't you too lazy to come and eat grapes? Today is the day for new students to register. Everyone is busy, so they can take some time off from their busy schedule. Wang Shui said while dividing the grapes. Sister Qin, I just heard what you said about taking the blame and not taking the blame. Who bullied you? I'm not your principal yet, Zhang Qin complained to her again. Unexpectedly, Wang Shui's face looked strange. You mean, Xiaoling? Yes, who else but her? If you offend Li Bingman, I will also suffer the same misfortune. Wang Shui's expression became even weirder. Sister Qin, I'm just saying this because I'm familiar with you. You two have just heard about it here, and don't spread the word. I advise you not to mess with Xiaoling. What? The two women looked at each other and felt that something was fishy. Wang Shui turned back to the door, closed it tightly, and then said mysteriously, when I just came in from the school gate, I happened to see Xiaoling. Guess what car she got off from? Ferrari? Lamborghini? Maybach? Zhang Qin guessed without interest that the candidates who enroll here are from poor families. Although these luxury cars are not too common, it is not uncommon for them to appear among parents who pick up candidates. Isn't it just a BMW? Bao Ziyulai said. Shui, what happened to you today? A BMW worth less than $1 million has surprised you. Besides, haven't you heard? There are rumors among the freshmen that Xiaoling's family can't afford a car like that and that the car is a borrowed one. It's true that I borrowed it. Wang Shui's expression became more solemn. What's going on? Bao Ziyulai and Zhang Qin were confused. We can't afford to offend a poor student who borrowed a car, right? Whose car do you think she borrowed? Who? Wang Shui said, I recognize that license plate, S00086. It's very easy to remember. It's the license plate of Secretary Zhou next to Pei Ziyan. She accompanied Principal Xia to a meeting at the Emperor's headquarters last time and saw Secretary Zhou wearing a black elegant dress and sitting in when I got into that car. It was picturesque and graceful, which was really impressive. Zhang Qin and Bao Ziyulai both gasped. Secretary Zhou's car. That is the person who can see the chairman every day. The chairman's confidant. Although she is just a secretary, wherever she goes she is not supported by others. It is no exaggeration to say that she is the core figure of the emperor. That little girl from Sheibei actually has Secretary Zhou's support behind her. She, Bao Ziyulai stuttered, is Secretary Zhou's relative. I haven't heard that Secretary Zhou has relatives in Sheibei. Isn't she a returnee from overseas? Wang Shui was very satisfied with the bombshell effect of her news. She took a deep breath and broke the news. I was confused when I saw the license plate. I went to check Xiaoling's information. Her candidate number is in Sheibei. That's right, but no one from Sheibei passed the re-examination this time. The person in charge of Sheibei also said that he had never met Xiaoling. In other words, her candidate number is forged. Wang Shui nodded. I checked the information of all the examination areas, and I can basically confirm that the Xiaoling, like Li Bingman, is a candidate who was exempted from the preliminary and re-examination. Someone deliberately forged her number. This is so shocking. How many years does it take for a training camp to produce a student who is exempted from the exam? But there are actually two in this class. Zhang Qin and Bao Ziyulai were shocked by the news and couldn't recover for a long time. Finally, Bao Ziyulai swallowed. In other words, this Xiaoling, her background is no less than Li Bingman. I'm afraid so, Wang Shui said. However, since she forged the number, she probably doesn't want to be as high profile as Li Bingman. It's good for you to know. Don't spread it, otherwise you will be dead. Just kidding, Secretary Zhou. They simply can't afford to offend a big shot of that level. Zhang Qin also understood the importance and nodded quickly. It's incredible, it's like a dream. Zhang Qin murmured, then, does the principal know? He asked me to send him to day school. Will it offend Secretary Zhou badly? End of this chapter.